Joining us now to talk past impeachments, what past impeachments have meant for markets and how it can impact them today. Paul Hickey, co-founder of Bespoke Investment Group. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
I was interesting looking at some of your notes. Hard to believe that the partisan divide actually is not at a record. It was higher during Bush 2 at 45 points, 45 percentage points. I think a lot of people on the left have forgotten how much they hated W. They've totally recalibrated their hate for Trump. It's not a quantitative difference. It's actually
relative.
It's qualitatively different. They even like W now. They think, he was harmless.
Michelle Obama and Bush are friends.
Right. I know. Ellen goes to football games with him. I know. It's really.
And yet Michelle Obama has to defend the fact that she's friends with him. I mean, it just shows how divided the whole thing is right now.
So we were talking about it earlier. This is the most tame constitutional crisis I've ever seen, at least in terms of the markets.
The futures Dow's down 7 points.
Exactly, and it's up at its 16th new high as of yesterday. Why?
Well, I think, to the words of James Carville, it's the economy, stupid. We look in 74 when Nixon was impeached. From Watergate till the time he resigned, the S&P was down 25%. Dropped another 25% after he resigned. But the U.S. economy was in tatters then. Oil was spiking, and we had inflation rampant. So I think, and then you go to the late 90s with Clinton, who you look at the politicians, a lot of them are still there today, who was on one side of the aisle back then, is on the other side now, and vice versa. The economy was doing very well, and the market was up 28% from the time the Lewinsky affair broke till the time Clinton was acquitted, and that included the long-term capital.
So there's people that say that the person sitting in the Oval Office has very little to do overall with the economy. You'd either have to think that, or you'd have to think that Trump really isn't getting that, President Trump is not getting that wounded at this point, because we're not that far from a Sanders or a Warren or a Biden presidency if that's going to happen. And what, the economy is going to be fine under a Sanders or under a Warren?
Well, no. So you look at the poll numbers. From the day Warren's poll numbers peaked was in early October. From there, the S&P has been going a lot higher. Healthcare has been straight higher since Warren's numbers peaked. If you do a chart of it, if you inverse Warren's numbers to the healthcare sector, they're right on top of each other. So then now it looks more like Biden is what you're saying, and Biden would be okay for the economy. Is that what you're saying? Well, I think he would be more tolerable than a Warren or a Sanders. But at the same time, I think at this point, if Trump gets through all of this, which it's looking likely he will, then he wins. The chances of him being
wins what? He can win in 2020 even with all of these horrible things?
Because, look,
wacky deplorables?
No. What's happening here? Look, on just straight economy, straight economic numbers, nobody, no matter what side you're on, are going to dispute that things are good. This is a referendum on his character, which is a different issue.
Not just that, though. No, Andrew, it's really not, because if you then you must take everything that the Democrats are saying with a grain of salt in terms of being just a really huge threat to democracy and to the Constitution and an abuse of power.
But that goes to character.
Well, it doesn't just go to character. It affects,
for better or worse,
but it affects all of us.
Most Americans don't seem to be interested in character. They seem to be interested in the economy.
You're making it way too simplistic. If he is putting the national security of the United States at risk, the way Schumer and the left are talking about it, then it's not just character anymore. This is a really important thing. And I can't believe you think there's going to be a landslide. Then you must think most Americans are pretty like sociopaths if they don't care what this guy is doing.
I would argue that it's very short-term thinking. I do think that's true. To the extent that you think that you're
not looking down at the American public for electing this guy.
Unfortunately, I'm not making a comment on the election. What I'm making a comment on is that people aren't looking or seeming to look past character issues.
I'm not staying out of this one.
In favor of the economy. In favor of the economy.
Those 63 million are pretty deplorable. I think if you just want to really be honest, they're pretty deplorable.
There's not a commentary on who's voting for who.
What do you think, Paul?
Well, I think the average American when they vote is going to look at how their standing is doing. Are they doing better or worse? And Trump has a lot of character flaws that you can bring out. But at the same time, we're in such a transparent environment right now. I mean, are we saying that every politician before him was an angel? I mean, if you look back...
That's true, too. But, I look at the way mainstream media...
On that front, life is relative.
Hold on, but Andrew, look at the way mainstream media is characterizing the Republicans that won't throw Trump under the bus.
Well, that's true, too.
These people are headed down this greasy chute to live the rest of their days with Satan, the Republicans, that are not abandoning Trump, according to the mainstream media. They have no backbone, they have no conscience, and they're enabling this guy to, right? Isn't that what you see?
So, I see it, but I'll say
then
one thing that I've always found troubling about all of this from the beginning, irrespective of what you think is happening in Ukraine or anywhere else, is that the Republicans historically, at least during the Trump administration, have been unwilling to criticize the president virtually at any level for all of these things which are obvious character-related issues.
The characteristics are very obvious, Andrew.
It's obvious to anybody who's like half sentient.
So with the characteristics of every previous president we've had, almost, except for Jimmy Carter, maybe.
All you have to do is look at Bill Clinton and the impeachment that he faced, too.
JFK, OBJ, I can go back. Grant was in a bag, the entire presidency. Anyway, who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Grant and his wife.
Anyway, Paul, so what I really don't understand, number one...
It's true, it's right up here.
...is that we hear about all this stuff, and then people acknowledge that there could be a big win in 2020, which there's a disconnect there. And is that why the market keeps going up, because it thinks Trump is going to be reelected?
Well, I think...
No, because it thinks Elizabeth Warren is less likely.
I think Biden would be okay.
Well, look, I think
you have a situation where you have, more tolerable candidate most likely getting in. Right. But you also have right now, look at the Fed. The Fed is basically came out in October and said they're not cutting rates. And then they came out last week and said, we're serious. We're really not cutting rates anytime soon. Right. And I think that is being coincided with also a strong
and that'll help the president.
And that'll help the president. And the Fed usually stays out of the picture. So if they don't do any moves in the first half of the year, it would be hard for them to make a move in the second half of the year, even if the economy is doing well.
Can we at least acknowledge that these are crazy times?
Yes.
That we're in right now.
Yes.
Crazy times, but this has been the most tranquil decade in U.S. market history. We have never had less volatility in a decade than we have this decade.
It just shows you the kind of people that are...
Think of the last decade where we were coming from.
Right.
That's why.
The people controlling the purse strings.
You got to hope that after the plane crash, there's not another plane crash, right?
Well, yes. We were coming from the depths. You got to remember that, too.
No, it came after the second worst decade in U.S. history.
The S&P 500 was at 666.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for having me.